Do you hold a lot of government fiat currency savings, or do you go into hard assets? What's your personal philosophy over the next few years with your own financial freedom plan?
One day I'm gonna launch a rocket into space, and then all the women are gonna surround me, and that's the motivation.
As an American, for someone listening to this as American, so for me to get any tax benefits other than Puerto Rico, do I have to legitimately expatriate from the country if I don't want to live in Puerto Rico?
Yeah, so Puerto Rico is one option. You can spend 5-6 months a year in Puerto Rico, and then you have freedom to be in the U.S., to travel, what have you. If you don't want to live in Puerto Rico, then it comes down to, do you run a business? Now, look at what America First did to us. Now you cannot live overseas and have indefinite deferral on your foreign income as a business, but you are going to have much lower taxes. So you can pay, single digits or low double digits on your income depending on how much you make. You can take a salary tax-free $108,700 this year in 2021. Potentially you can add the standard deduction to that. If you're married, potentially you both work for the business. So, you can live on the salary tax-free, and if you set up your business properly, it's legitimately zero tax, no Social Security, no Medicare, no state, no federal. Beyond that, you're going to pay something. And if you're in passive investments, like in real estate, you get your normal depreciation and stuff like that, but you're not, the foreign earned income exclusion is for businesses, and there's special rules for what constitute a business, right? You can't just be a one-man shop and call yourself a business and incorporate offshore and pay zero. So it does get challenging. There are a lot of rules. If you are a one-man shop, we probably need to work on that. If you're trading, I've got day traders, I've got crypto traders. For those guys, it probably is Puerto Rico or expatriating. You're not going to get really that many significant tax benefits anyway else, because no matter where you go, if you're not earning money from a business that you're actually working at as a business, the way they define a business, you're not really going to get the tax incentives. And so I have American friends who live in Dubai and Abu Dhabi, and they work in banking, and they make millions of dollars a year, and they just pay U.S. tax on all but that 108. I've helped numerous people who are day traders, crypto traders, etc., who just want to expatriate. They get a second passport and they bail out. And that's partially because of the tax, but it's also partially because of the paperwork. How many crypto guys have I talked to where they're not eligible for many good investments because they don't want Americans? So there's a lot of disadvantages to being an American besides the tax. I really think if you can get over that hurdle, not being an American is, from personal experience, easier than I think people would imagine.
So, what is your philosophy on building your financial freedom and your wealth? How much do you have percentages that you divide up into gold, into real estate? Do you hold a lot of government fiat currency savings, or do you go into hard assets? What's your personal philosophy over the next few years with your own financial freedom plan?
Well, my philosophy works for me because, and I don't know what the numbers are because things are constantly changing. I run a cash flow business, right? I run a services business. I'm not pumping money back into inventory for my Amazon FBA business, and so it works for me. I do keep fiat assets in various currencies. I think the US dollar is going to continue to perform poorly. I was saying last April that it was a great time to put your US dollars into assets in other countries and get things like residences and passports by buying real estate, by buying government bonds, whatever. I mean, look, if you would have put money into Australia less than a year ago, you'd have a 60% return or something like that. So I do keep fiat, but part of it is because I like to have opportunities. We're looking at, as our business grows, potential acquisitions, we're looking at larger projects, and so I like to have cash that I just know is there. And obviously as a business, of course, we have AP and AR and what have you. I do keep precious metals. I generally like to vault them overseas. I'm not going to tell you exactly where they're all stored, but I will say I'm probably more of a gold guy. I do see the proposition for silver. I was buying silver at $8 back in 2000. Was it 8 or was it 9? And it went up to 50. And I am a big silver fan. I like buying big gold bars though, and you can get really great rates on that. So you're not really paying the spreads that you pay on silver. But I do have some silver, and I do like silver. It seems like silver is something that should be doing better, but we can discuss maybe why it's not doing better. I've gotten into crypto. I'm not someone who puts every dollar into crypto. I'm probably a little bit too conservative, and I don't like the wild swings. I own 6 homes around the world. I own equities, mostly out of the U.S., which have done pretty well. I own real estate and other investment, other places, through funds, through REITs, some on my own. So I do like hard assets. And it's very interesting right now because there's the crypto people who argue with the gold people who argue with the, and I just want to be really diversified. And I just want to know that no matter what happens. By the way, again, my situation is a little bit personal because, I'm the guy who talks to 17 million people last year about, how I gave up my citizenship in the U.S. And I'm not here to say that people should do anything wrong. But I'm sure I'm not number one on some people's Christmas card list. And so for me, having different places to go. Look at the last year, by the way. I just, got a property in Istanbul. And my wife actually made a great case. She said, no matter where you are in the world, if something crazy happens, you're probably a nonstop flight from Istanbul. And if you have a home in Istanbul, right, that's a convenient thing to have in these times of chaos. So that's an opportunity. Maybe not everyone kind of wants the diversification that I have, but that's what I'm doing.
Very interesting. And so when you buy your precious metals, are you buying them with the intention of selling them at a higher price, or is your philosophy that you kind of treat it like another version of savings and it's more of a store of your cash flow from businesses?
I mean, I would say the second. I think that the secret, and I had Michael Saylor on, he said it maybe better than anyone, what do really wealthy families do? They buy assets, they hold them for centuries, and they don't plan on selling them, all right? I mean, people talk about the liquidity in some of the places where I buy real estate. I happen to think it's not that bad, other than maybe I have a summer home in Montenegro. That's a lifestyle purchase. It's never easy to sell those. But it's like I'm not interested in selling. And so I look at gold, I look at silver as a store of value to keep there. Again, I have a cash flow business. And so I always know there's going to be more cash flow coming in. Or at least I think that. After 17 years of business, I finally felt comfortable saying, we will survive next month. I have that Midwest Protestant, for maybe 14 years, I would have a record year every year, other than the year I sold everything. And every month would be better than that. And every month, on the first, so we're coming up on the first, I would say, well, that was pretty good, but I bet it all falls apart this month. I've finally gotten over that, I think, at 36 years old. But, everyone's got a different situation. So for me, it's, you take a chunk of that and you put it into various things, and you just plan on leaving it there. When I'm buying equities, I don't think that Indonesia or India are going to slow down anytime soon. Even more exotic markets like Egypt, for example, where I think there's already some nonsense priced into them. What do I want to sell that for? Africa. For 50 years, you could hold a good investment in Africa.
I had Doug Casey, I'm publishing it tomorrow, but just the other day, and he was saying if he was my age, he would move to Africa, would be the place he would go to get rich. And I think, it has a lot to do with commodities and natural resources and such.
Well, for sure. There's a guy, by the way, who, when the British announced the handover in Hong Kong, as I recall, he was there, buying, if I'm not mistaken. And there's a time, buy when there's blood in the streets. People were freaking out, right? And everyone was saying Hong Kong is going to become a disaster. And maybe people have different opinions now. Happen to know many people who live in Hong Kong, and they're looking there now, and they're saying, we're still staying here. It's not so bad. But you look back, in the late 80s, and it was chaos, and he was buying, and he did very well in places like that. So, Jim Rogers, who I know you're a fan of, 1800 moved to London, 1900 moved to New York, 2000 moved to Singapore. Maybe before 2100, it is moved to Addis or, I don't know where it's going to be, the Cairo. Where's going to be the center of Africa? I don't know. Moved to Gaborone, Botswana or something.
My brother, his roommate in college, is American that now lives in the Kingdom of Swahili, which is within South Africa, I believe. And apparently
Right.
he works with the royal family, and apparently it's a great place to be for business and investment and the things they're building out. So I found that interesting. But let me ask you, we talk a lot about not only precious metals, some crypto, commodities, but we talk a lot about the macro environment, and we talk about the devaluation of currency. We've talked a bit about this idea of this reset, and what the World Economic Forum and the whole Build Back Better that all these leaders seem to be saying. And one of the ways that I think that people miss, that I try to talk about a lot on this channel, that Robert Kiyosaki does such a great job of trying to educate someone like myself, is we think that you just buy the right crypto, you buy the right stock, you buy the right gold or silver, and you're just going to get super rich. And for the most part, we're talking about very small amounts of capital that people have, and I'm sure it can help. But in my opinion, the most important way to buy our freedom in this world is through businesses and additional sources of income. And I was wondering if you could touch a little bit on that, and as someone that's built a large international business, some kind of important pieces of advice for someone who's been hearing us talk about this on the channel, that's really thinking about giving it a shot with whatever it is. What's some of the important things you've learned from mentors or your own experience that have been useful kind of in conclusion as someone looks to grow their financial freedoms or their businesses or entrepreneurial journeys of success?
I think about this because I do know many people who are very successful investors, and that's all they do. I've got a 23-year-old. He makes multi-million dollars a year trading, and so people can do that. By the way, the barrier to entry for some of this stuff is very low. I had a guy once who had a 6th grade education, and he was making like $7 or $8 million a year trading. And I was telling some people, and they said, yeah, like that's a lot of those traders. That's their thing. They just have like a knack for it. And I've had business people who have built big $7, $8 million businesses who started from nothing in Morocco, in Egypt, in Russia, in Ukraine, and other countries, Asia, Taiwan. And there's really no excuse. So anyway, I look at the guys who are the traders, and I say, I struggle with, is your income your greatest source of wealth? I think for a lot of people it is. And so you want to create something. Personally, I think, having a cash flow business, I like that. I never understood, maybe I don't have enough confidence, I never understood we're going to try and get 91 million people to download our app and hope we can pawn this off on somebody else. I like businesses where you come in, you start with very little, and now again, you can do that much more easily because you can hire people in Serbia or the Philippines or Armenia or anywhere else to help you. And I like businesses that create cash flow. What can you sell? Is there knowledge? Can you sell a course? Can you, what can you do where you can just start making money quickly and scale from there? And I think that, I look back now and I see some of these guys who are in crypto or what have you, and some of the younger ones, they do seem a little, cocky. And I guess when I was 23 and just starting to make, good money, you kind of think that you have the world by the cojones. And I would try and caution, I suppose, against that. I think it's kind of easier said than done. But I think that, you have to go through it. People come to me, and the problem is people see me now, the people I meet, and they see the finished product. They don't see the 17 years. They don't see the mistakes. They don't see all the bumps along the road. I think without those, you can't get to the 17 years because you would screw it up. The same way a lottery winner blows the lottery winnings, right? So for me, humility has been helpful. Learning to have the right people has been helpful. That's a big problem when you start to hire, especially if you have the humility, because you maybe you bring in the wrong people sometimes. So that's been a thing we've had to learn the hard way. I think that putting patience is important in that Nomad Capitalist has been, I think, the most successful thing I've done because the goal was never how do we increase revenue as quickly as possible. And by saying that, you did what you needed to do to where you would increase revenue more quickly than in a business where your goal was just how do we increase revenue. And I was in the radio business, and I knew some people and I had clients who were very controversial in some cases. And when you got to know them, they were really passionate. Even if it was something people thought was kooky, they were very passionate about it. They were true believers, and I think that's what made them so successful. They built these, $100 million, $500 million businesses doing some pretty alternative stuff, and they really believed in it. And it wasn't really about the money, and the money followed. I've met people who are billionaires, multi-billionaires, and it's not about the money. It's about the passion. It's about treating people right. And I think in the end that all works out. Not always in the short term, but in the long term. So I guess those are my tips. And lastly, the Protestant, the longing, it's never good enough. Winter is coming. It could all fall apart next month. Certainly, that neurosis helps to a certain extent. If you're 14 years old and you want to know how to be successful in life, my advice is don't get laid in high school. That will, because you become complacent, right? I mean, how many 16-year-old guys who are sitting around reading the Libertarian Party or reading popular science, like, one day I'm going to launch a rocket into space, and then all the women are going to surround me, and that's the motivation, and it drives you. So I think having some kind of adversity in your life is helpful to drive people. Having a little bit of neurosis is helpful. How can Nomad Capitalist help you? 4 ways. Number 1, subscribe to our channel and click the notification bell to make sure you get our new video every day. Number 2, get a copy of Nomad Capitalist, the book. You'll learn a lot of my personal experiences over a dozen years of studying this stuff, as well as exactly some of the strategies that you can use to build your Nomad Capitalist plan. Number 3, if you're not sure where to start, but you want to come and learn from my team and I, you want to come and mingle with like-minded people, learn more about our live conference, Nomad Capitalist Live. It's coming up soon. And number 4, if you want some help right now because you've got a burning issue, you need something solved, you want to lower your taxes, get a second passport, or build the Nomad Capitalist lifestyle of your dreams, go to nomadcapitalist.com and click on Become a Client.